Another report has been tabled in Parliament questioning the effectiveness of government spending. I'm joined by MBR's political editor, Brent Edwards. So, Brent, what does this report from the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment say?
Well, look, in the report, Simon Upton says that while there's quite a bit of money spent on environmental issues, protecting waterways or making sure they're clean, saving species, etc., biodiversity, and then they put that down they think about over $2 billion. But even that number is not clear. And he said that his office, his team, they had to go through use a series of methodologies to try and work out exactly how much in total the government is spending on the environment, let alone then trying to work out what it was spending, whether it was producing the sorts of outcomes you would want, i.e. better environmental outcomes. Basically, the main thing is because not enough data is being collected for the government to make those judgments. It's focused on outputs, so you might say that, we've purchased so many traps to catch pests, boom, that's done, tick it off, but not what then goes on after that. Well, how many pests have been killed? How free is the sort of bush from the sort of pests that are killing indigenous wildlife and what have you? So, it just comes down to that issue where he says the government kind of knows where it's spending the money, but it doesn't really know what effect it's having.
Well, is this the fault of the government or something broader?
Well, it's not the fault of this specific government. It's the way that the public finances operate. It's very much focused on outputs. And Simon Upton, who was a minister in the National-led government in the 1990s, said, at the time the Public Finance Act was set up in the early 90s, at that point the government faced a fiscal crisis. It was to make the finances more transparent, bring a level of discipline to government spending, and that's all worked, and that's fine. But he says now things have moved on. You need to sort of look at how effective is it, and one of the reasons why it's difficult to work out often how effective these things are, and also look at spending is in the environment. But there are a range of agencies and departments that are spending money and responsible for bits of it. So that's the difficulty for the government to work out, well, as a total, how well is it doing in terms of environmental issues?
Another report putting government spending in the spotlight.
Yeah, well, it is another report. This is specifically on the environment, but it follows on from a report last year into the audits of all the government finances by the Auditor General's Office, where John Ryan raised concerns about not being able to be clear about the outcomes that government spending got. You could see where money was spent, but you didn't necessarily know, well, what did it achieve? And he's raised this concern too. And in fact, it was interesting because he put out a statement on his website specifically on Simon Upton's report, sort of essentially agreeing with it and just raising again that it raised the wider question across all of government spending. And it's about $150 billion a year now. So, does the government know how effective its spending is? And, the issue there is just, again, about collecting better data, being clear about what outcomes you want and ensuring that those outcomes are achieved. The argument that I think John Ryan makes and Simon Upton on the environment is if you find then you're not getting the outcomes you want from a particular program, well, actually, maybe you should think about shifting the money into something else.
Is this a chance for the opposition parties to swoop in as well?
Oh, I think it's probably an opportunity for the opposition parties to raise some issues around that. They have attacked this government over its spending, saying it's But as I say, this is the way. This is a criticism of the way the financial system or the government's finances work at the moment. It's not actually a specific criticism of any policy. It's both of these. They're watchdogs. They report directly to Parliament, not to the government. They're talking about how can the information be better collated and be more transparent, largely so that MPs, backbench MPs, and representing the public can then hold the government of the day, whichever government is, to account for their spending and whether that spending is actually achieving the outcomes that it's meant to.
Brent Edwards, thank you.